All right, party people. This is Angel, and we are back with our second episode of Spilling the Anxieties. So, just for future reference, I guess, I will be releasing a new podcast episode every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday when possible. Now that I'm just starting out, I'm going to do my best to make it possible, but I want you guys to have steady content and something to really hold on to. So look forward to something dropping every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. At what time Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I cannot promise you, but like today, it's going to be late, but it's okay. Just know to expect it. So one of the things that I really want to dive into today before we take a quick break is postpartum depression. I feel like it's not, I spoke about this in my last episode, how I feel like there is a huge stigma attached to it. To be honest, I feel like there was more of a stigma attached to it just because when I got diagnosed with it was maybe less than a year after I left the service. And I was struggling to be in this category. I didn't really know where I fit in, and I didn't want to believe it myself. So that's one of the things that I really want to hone in on today and speak about my experience over this week is going to be like postpartum depression week. I want to speak about the different experiences I had with my 3 children because every experience and every child was different. Even the recovery period was a little bit longer. So when we get back from the break, I want to dive right into some of the things that I experienced and some of the things that I was going through. So we'll be back after the break. All right, and we are back from that very scintillating break. So, postpartum depression, for me, I'll be honest with you, I'm not sitting here with a prepared definition. I'm not sitting here with something to regurgitate from a professional. This is my own experience, and I am not by any means a mental health professional, something that I want everybody to know. I am just somebody that has had struggles with mental health, and I've seen enough professionals. Let me not say enough. I've seen professionals that have let me know what I'm going through, and that's something that I want to kind of highlight a bit. So there is a difference between postpartum depression and postpartum blues. A lot of women, if I would say almost every woman, experiences postpartum blues. It's that 2-week period after you've had a child, and it can be your first child, it can be your 10th child, it doesn't matter. It's this returning to normalcy a bit. You go to a hospital one day in this massive pain, knowing you're about to give birth to this child, and then you're just sent home with this new child. No instructions, not knowing this person at all, but loving it more than anything, if that's the way that it worked out for you. Because some women take some time to build that bond and build that trust. It sounds crazy that you have to trust your newborn, but you do, because you don't know what that child is capable of. So it's a mutual trust. It's like, I trust you to tell me what you need. I trust you to give me the right signs and the right symbols and to thrive almost. You're trusting the child to thrive so that way nothing is wrong. Having a child in the first few weeks, let alone the first few years, it's a lot. My oldest is 5 years old, and I still need to trust her to tell me when something is wrong, because kids don't know when something is out of whack. They don't know when it's out of balance, and sometimes they have a hard time expressing themselves. So you go to the hospital, you have this baby, and you've been preparing for it, but you can prepare for anything and still be absolutely unprepared when it comes. I had a friend recently who passed away, and I call her a friend because that's what she felt like to me, because we shared everything together. This woman taught me about life, and she was seasoned. Okay, she was supposed to be 100 years old this year, and I met her. She was previously my boss from an old job that I got when I was still in college. And she ended up being like family. So She was obviously up there in years. We called each other once a month for the past 10 years. She told me that she loved me. She was like my grandmother. I took her to a wedding. I took her to her grandson's wedding. I called her grandchildren and gave them advice on parenting when she felt like they weren't receptive to her advice, when she felt like she messed up. She was very proud of them, but she felt sometimes like they just needed that extra push. And when your grandmother comes in and tells you, whatever it is, sometimes you might not be receptive to it, especially if you're a new parent. I lost her recently, and it was something that I was expecting for quite some time. She was getting up there, and I saw it. I saw it on her face the last time I saw her. I could hear it in her voice. We would have these conversations where she would repeat herself over and over and over again, and I knew that her memory was fading. And this was a big deal for her because she worked up until the pandemic. The pandemic put her out of business. She had a little shop in Manhattan, and she ran it for 65 or 66 years before the pandemic took her out. When I found out about her death, it was a huge blow to me because she was like my grandma. And people I don't like telling people, well, she was my friend, but she was kind of like my grandmother, but not really my grandmother, because it's almost like people are telling you that, well, you shouldn't be sad because she wasn't really your family. Her real family is probably distraught. But that's not it. When her grandkids weren't there, I was there. She wanted to meet my kids. She wanted to do all this. And when I was going through postpartum depression, I came to her, and in her true old-fashioned sense, she let me know it's hard. She let me know that it's very hard, but this is what women have been doing since the beginning of time, and that it was something that I can do because she knew that I was capable of just about anything. Knowing I had her support meant a lot to me, because when I was struggling with my first daughter and I didn't have a job, she let me bring Adriana, my daughter, to work with me for her. And she would line my pockets with extra money, and she would make sure that we sat down and we had lunch. And every single person that stepped into the store, she would tell them about me and how she was so proud of me because I had just come home from the service and I had this beautiful family now. There were so many things that I didn't tell her because she was so old-fashioned, and I knew that she would, I guess, frown upon it. But her response to everything was, let it take care of itself. I say that to say, I've been prepared for her death for a very long time. Every time that we spoke on the phone, I was nervous that she wouldn't answer. And when she called me, it was both a mixture of relief and anticipation that it was her calling me and not her grandson to let me know that she had passed. You are prepared for this child that's coming into your life, or maybe you're not, but you know it's coming. And then you go to the hospital one day to have this baby, and that flood of emotion that releases, in a split second, you are not pregnant anymore. This child is on the outside now. And as much as you bitch and complain at the end that you want to get that child out, at least when that child was inside, you knew you would carry it everywhere you go. You ate, the child ate, you slept. Maybe the child slept, maybe it didn't, but it was easier. Now the child's on the outside. Now with postpartum blues, it's normal to feel with this rush of emotion. It's normal to feel out of whack is the best way that I would put it. But with postpartum depression, the weeks go by. It doesn't really seem to get better. It's this new level of hopelessness. It's this difficulty to attach to this child that is in front of you and needing you. And all you can find yourself thinking is, why me? What am I supposed to do? Is there somebody else that can do this? And yeah, for those of you pitching in and saying, hey, well, dad can take over and help ease the load. Not everybody has somebody to turn to. And even when you do, if you choose to exclusively breastfeed, if you choose to co-sleep or not co-sleep or whatever it is, there's only so much that other person can do. And that doesn't necessarily have to mean a partner. There are some people that co-parent with their parents. There are some people that co-parent with friends. There are some people that co-parent with family. There are some people that don't have a partner because their partner didn't make it to the end of the race. So you find yourself drowning in this sea of emotion. And it doesn't always mean either that you feel bad about not connecting with this child or looking for that connection with this child. It can even mean you're looking at this child and you don't know how you're supposed to relate to it. It's a lot of things. Postpartum depression is a lot of things. And then there's like postpartum psychosis where it's just like you really don't even recognize this kid came out of you. And you're just not even there. That's not something I experienced, thank God. Although there are more women that I'm comfortable with that do experience that. That doesn't mean that it's normal. A feeling like that is anything but normal. When I had Adriana, it felt like one day to the next. I was maybe so by sonogram measurements, I was 39 weeks when I was told that I had to be induced to have her. By my last period, I was 38 weeks. And she had very low fluid levels on the inside. Now, I knew that something was wrong because in my opinion, I'm a big woman. And at the time I was smaller, but I had always been a steady like 190 pounds and I'm 5'7". So when I started carrying, I didn't even show until I was like 6 months, which was scary to me because I was like, aren't I supposed to be as big as a house? But everybody that I ran into was just like, you're really small. And that kind of freaked me out a little bit because I was like, God, does that mean that my baby's going to be small? And what do I do with such a small creature? Something I said in my previous podcast, I'm not the kind of person who was surrounded with kids growing up. I am the baby of my family. And I was just freaking out. My pregnancy wasn't the easiest as far as connections went. Even from the beginning, her father he's not really an expressive man. So while this was my first child, it wasn't his. And I felt like I didn't get that experience with somebody who was just as nervous and as excited to go through it with me, because it kind of just seemed like another day at the rodeo for him. And everybody's entitled to feel however they're going to feel, especially men. They're not particularly expressive. But I was disappointed in that because there were so many things that I wanted for that pregnancy and I just didn't get it. And then we started to have problems and that just made the pregnancy feel heavier. And my mom my mom and I have a complicated relationship and I wish that wasn't the case, but it is. And I was just getting off of the heels of a very poorly planned, very misaligned in my life and completely useless marriage before I got pregnant, which was honestly from I do to I don't. It was about 10 months and it was with somebody that I didn't live with. It was another soldier. It was somebody I didn't live with. It was somebody that I didn't love. And to be honest, it was somebody that I got married to in an attempt to escape how I felt about my kid's father today. I was so hung up on somebody feeling like they wanted to marry me that I took it as a joke, which now that I'm older and now that I have children, I feel super embarrassed about. But at the time, I didn't really have the guidance to tell me otherwise. And this is not to say that I didn't have people telling me I shouldn't have gotten married. It means that I didn't have that connection with anybody